Hey, what's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to show you how to integrate MySQL with Node.js. Now, this is a question that I get a lot from developers that are coming from a LAMP stack background, PHP developers that use Apache and MySQL, and they want to start dabbling in Node, but maybe they're not ready for MongoDB or some of the other NoSQL databases that are commonly used with Node. You have the mean stack, and Mongo and Node are very closely related and used often. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the MySQL client here, the MySQL package that we can install using npm. So obviously you need Node.js installed. And then this has some pretty good documentation. This is the GitHub page. We're just going to install it. We're going to set up a connection. I'm going to give you the tools that you need to make selects and inserts, updates, deletes. We're not going to build a full application, but it'll give you the knowledge you need to go and create your own application. Now we're also going to be using Express because I do want to use routes. We could use it without Express, but it's a lot of work to set up routes and stuff without a framework, and I don't really want to focus on that. I want to strictly focus on MySQL. So that's what we'll be doing in this video, guys. Hope you enjoy it, and let's get started. So if you guys really like my videos and you learn a lot from them and maybe you have a couple extra dollars to spare, check out my Patreon page. I'm working on creating special content for patrons. You also get special deals on future courses, and there's even an email support tier for all YouTube videos and projects. To learn more, visit patreon.com/traversymedia. Alright guys, so you're going to need MySQL installed on your machine. Okay, I'm using Windows and I'm using a program called XAMPP, which gives me an Apache server, MySQL, and PHP. Now this is cross-platform. You can install this for Mac and Linux as well, and I would definitely suggest it for development with PHP or in Apache and any of that stuff. It gives you a nice localized environment. So that's what we're using. It also comes with phpMyAdmin. So if that's installed, you can go to localhost/phpMyAdmin, and this will give you all your databases. It'll show you your tables and all that stuff. We're not going to really be doing anything through here aside from just visually checking our results that are going on through the application. But just know that I'm using XAMPP, and you can install that if you want. So I have Visual Studio Code open here, and I just have an empty folder called Node MySQL. That's where we're going to be building this application or semi-application. And I'm going to be using the integrated terminal as well. Actually, you know what? I got to clear this stuff out. Alright, now I'm using git bash as my command line, and I have that integrated with Visual Studio Code. To do that, all I did was install git bash, and I went to the settings, and I just added, let me just make this a little bigger, I just added this this right here, terminal integrated shell windows, and I pointed to the git bash software. Alright, so if you want to do that, you can. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a package.json file, and we can do that with npm init. And if you're new to Node.js, package.json is kind of like a manifest file. It has your app name, version, has all the dependencies as far as modules you're using, things like that. So it's going to ask us some questions, the name of the application, that's fine, version, description, we'll just say sample app for using MySQL with Node. For the entry point, I'm going to call it, let's call it app.js. And then I'll just enter through the rest. Alright, and now you'll see that we have a package.json file. It should look something like this. Now to install our client here, let's go to the GitHub page. We just need to run npm install MySQL. Alright, so let's go down here. I'll clear this out. And we're going to say npm install. And I'm going to do -- save, because what that's going to do is it's going to save it as a dependency to our package.json file. And then we're going to install MySQL, and I also want to install Express, which is our backend framework. Alright, and that should pop up in this file since we use the -- save. Alright, so there we go. So we have Express and MySQL installed. So we'll close that up. Now we need to create our entry point, which is the app.js file. Okay, and then we're going to, let me just bring it up over here. We're going to bring in both Express and MySQL, so let's say const Express, and we're going to require the Express module. Okay, we also want to bring in MySQL, so we'll say const MySQL equals require, and we want to bring in MySQL. Alright, so let's just set up a very simple Express server. So we're going to create a variable called app, set it to express. All right, then we want to be able to start the server, so we're going to take that app variable and just say .listen, and we want to listen on port 3000 or whatever you'd like, and then we're going to just add an arrow function here. This is just going to run after the server starts. I'll just say console.log, and let's just say server started on port 3000. All right, and that should allow us to run it. So if we go down here, you know what else I'm going to do is I'm going to install something called nodemon, which allows us to run our server but not have to restart it every time we make a small change. So what I'm going to do is say npm install, and I'm actually going to install this globally, so I'm going to do -g and then nodemon. Alright, and then once you have that installed, you can simply run nodemon and it'll run your application. Okay, just make sure you're in the correct folder. We'll say nodemon, and now it's running on port 3000. So if we go over here, and I want to keep that open, close that. Let's go to localhost 3000. Now we're going to get this cannot get slash because we don't have any routes for our server, for our application. That's why we're getting that. We're just creating routes so that we can run certain queries and certain functionality. We're not going to have a user interface or anything like that. All right, we'll just have, for instance, when we insert a post or something, we'll just say post inserted. All right, so to start using MySQL, we need to create a connection. So if we look at the documentation, you'll see right here, we already required MySQL. Now we need to create a connection, and we need to connect. So let's go right. We'll go right above where we created the app variable, and let's say create connection, and we're going to take that, or we're going to create a variable. I'm going to call it db, and we're going to set it to MySQL dot create connection. All right, now you're seeing stuff happen down here because I have autosave on. I'm actually going to shut autosave off. All right, so create connection, and then this is going to take in a configuration object. And if we look at the documentation, it takes the host, the user, password, and database. So let's go ahead and just copy that. All right, and you want to put your credentials for your database. I'm using the root account, and I'm going to put my password in here. And for database, we haven't created a database yet because I want to show you how to do that through the application. But we're going to call it node MySQL. All right, so that's our configuration. Now we need to actually connect. So to connect, we're going to take that db variable that we have, and we're going to call the connect function. All right, and then we're going to pass in here an app. Now you can do like a callback like this if you want, but we're going to stick to ES6 syntax, and we're going to use an arrow function. So just parentheses and then an arrow and then some curly braces. All right, and that's going to take in an error, and we want to check to see if there's an error before we do anything. So let's say if there's an error, then we want to let's do a console log. Oops. So console log, and we're just going to say, you know what, let's just throw the error. We'll say throw error. All right, and if there's no error, then we just want a console.log, and we're going to say MySQL, MySQL connected. All right, and that should actually connect us. So let's save. What the hell's going on here? Unknown database node MySQL. So we don't have the database created. Now we could go to phpMyAdmin and create it, but I want to actually create a route that's going to show you how to create the database through the application. So let's go right under the app declaration here, and let's say create db. So we're going to create a route. So to create routes in Express, we can do app.get because it's going to be a get request. And let's make the route, we'll just say create db. All right, and then we're going to put an arrow function. Okay, that arrow function will have a request and response object, And then what we want to do is create our query. So let's say let SQL equals, and if you know SQL, this should be really easy. We're just going to say create database, and we're going to call it node MySQL. All right, so that puts the query into a variable, and then to run it, we can just take that DB variable. You can say db.query, and then we want to pass in, first of all, the query itself, and then a callback or an arrow function. Okay, and then this arrow function is going to take in error and result. Okay, so it's going to run the query. We're going to check for the error. We'll just say if there's an error, then let's throw that error. And if not, then we're just going to res.send, because I want something to happen in the browser. So we're just going to say database created. All right. And we can also log the result. Okay, it's going to give us a result back. So we'll say console.log result. All right, so hopefully that works. Let's go ahead and save it. And let's see. If we go to localhost 3000 / create db. All right, so it's not actually letting us run it because we specified the database up here. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of that for now. And then it should, yeah, okay, so now it's actually letting us run it. You can see MySQL connected. So let's run that route again, database created. And this is what it gives us back as a result. It gives us this, this OK packet, gives us a field count, affected rows, insert ID. This is a common result you'll get back from things like inserts. All right, now let's go to phpMyAdmin and let's reload. And there it is, node MySQL. Okay, so it created that database for us. Now, a lot of times you're not going to have your application do that, but it's good to know you can do it, okay? So now that that database is created, we can now add that back. So we'll say database, I think it was it database? Yeah, database, set it to node MySQL, and now the application should run just fine. All right, so now what we're going to do is create a table. Okay, I'm going to show you how to create a table. We're going to create a post table. We'll say this is like a blog application. So let's create another route. We'll say create table, and we're going to do app.get. For the route, let's just say create, what did I say? Create posts table. Let's put a slash there. And then we'll have our arrow function. Okay, that's going to take in request response. And then we're going to create our query just like we did above. So we'll say let SQL equals. And let's say we want to create table posts. And this is going to have an ID, which is going to be an integer. All right, and I want to set this to auto increment. Everything you do within this query here is just pure SQL. If you know SQL, then you should understand all of this. All right, and we're going to have a title, which is going to be a varchar. And yeah, let's make that 255 max. And then we'll have a body, and I'm just going to make that a varchar as well. 255, and I think that's it. Yeah, but we need to make the primary key. Let's go ahead and we'll say primary key is going to be ID. All right, so ID is going to be auto increment, and it's also going to be the primary key. Let me just wrap this so I don't go off screen. All right. So under the SQL query, just like we did with creating the table, we're just going to say db.query, pass in the SQL, and then have our arrow function. Okay, and then the arrow function is going to take error and result. And then what we'll do is we'll just check for the error. You can handle errors however you want. And then let's just do console log result. And let's send out to the browser. And we'll say posts table created. All right, so we'll save that. let's go back to Chrome and let's go to our route. So it's going to be, what did I call it? Create post table. Okay, we'll run that. And it looks like we have an error. You have an error in your SQL syntax. Let's see, create table posts ID, which is going to be an integer. It's going to be auto increment. We're going to have a title, which is a varchar, a body, which is a varchar, body. What am I missing here? Oh, I don't have a comma right here. All right. So let's try that. Nope, still didn't work. Still an error in my syntax. Check your manual. Yeah, right. Rethrow non-MySQL errors. What am I missing here? Primary key. Oh. ID should be wrapped in parentheses. All right. So hopefully that works. There we go. Post table created. Let's reload. There we go. So now we have our post table. Let me make this bigger. So we have our database node MySQL with our post table. If we look in the table and we look at the structure, we have an ID, primary key, it's auto increment. We have a title and body, which are both varchar. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to insert some data. So let's go ahead and create a new route. We'll say insert post. Let's say insert post 1. We'll say app.get. Let's make the route. We'll say post. Or let's just say add post 1. All right. Request response. Let's create our query. So let SQL equals, and let's see, what are we going to do here? Let's actually, before we create the query, let's create the data. So we'll say let post equals. And we're going to set that to an object. Let's say title. I'll just say post 1. Body. We'll say this is post number 1. And yeah, that should do it. Just a title and a body. And then we'll make our query. So we can say insert into posts. And we're going to say set. And then a question mark. All right. And then, let's see, we're going to go down here and we're going to say let query and set that to our actual DB query. All right, so DB query, and we're going to pass in SQL. And then this question mark is basically like a placeholder for what we put here. And what we're going to put here is the actual post data. Okay, like that. And then the third parameter will be our arrow function. All right, so that's going to take error and result. Okay, and then in here, we're just going to do the same stuff we've been doing. We'll just check for the error, log the result, and then let's change the message here. We'll just say post one added. All right, so let's save that. Let's go back to our browser. And let's change this to, what was it? Add post, or add post 1. Okay, post 1 added. Let's go to phpMyAdmin, and let's go to our post table, browse, and there it is, ID 1, post 1, and our body. All right, so let's create another route to insert another post, just because I want to have more than one here. We'll change it to 2. Let's change this to add post 2. We'll change the title and the body. And this can all be the same. We'll just change the message. All right, and then we should be able to go back and say add post 2 added, reload, and there we go. So now we have 2 posts. So that leads us to making a select. Okay, we want to be able to select this data. So to make things a little quicker, let's copy this, change this to select select records or select posts. All right, we'll change the route to, let's say, get posts. We don't need this. For our query, we're just simply going to say select all from posts. Okay, and then let's see, that, get rid of the post here. We don't need that. We just want to pass in our SQL query, and then we have our error. I'm going to change this to results. That makes more sense. We're going to check for the error, and then we'll console log the results. And then in here, let's just say posts fetched. All right, and it should log our post down here. So let's save, and we need to actually go to get post to run it. And if we look down here, there's our post. Okay, ID 1, ID 2. So let's fetch an individual post. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this. And what you would do when you're building an actual application is you probably would be using like a template engine like EJS or Handlebars, and you would make your query, and then you would grab onto this results, and you would pass it into your template and then loop through those and output the results. Okay, but we're not building a full application. I'm just showing you how to implement this. All right, now I'm going to do something here. I'm going to say the route get post. This is going to be select single post. So it's going to be get post, and then I want to put the actual ID in the URL. So we're going to say :ID. So we're going to pass it as a parameter. All right, and then for our query, I'm going to be putting a variable in here. So I'm going to use backticks instead of quotes, because that will allow us to put a variable in. And we're going to say select all from posts where, let's say, where ID is equal to, and then since we're using a template string, we can use our money sign and curly braces to put a variable. And what we want to do is grab onto this ID that's in the URL. And to do that, we can say request.params.id. Okay, so it's going to select from that ID. And then for the query, we're going to go ahead and run that. And let's just change that to result, since it's just going to be 1. And then we're going to console log the result, and I'll say post fetched. All right, so let's go ahead and go to Chrome, and we'll go to get post /1 post fetched. If we look down here, there it is. All right, if we go to get post /2, there it is, post 2. All right, so we can now select a single post. So next thing we're going to do is an update. Let's say update post, and I guess I'll just copy this. Okay, so let's change get post to update post /ID, and then we're going to change this to let's see, what am I doing here? Let's first specify what we want to update. So we'll say let's say new title. We want to change the title, and we'll change it to the text updated title. All right, and we're going to say update posts, and then set, we want to set the title equal to new title, and we're going to do that where ID equals whatever's in the URL. All right, and then for the result, that's good. We'll just say post updated and save. Okay, now we're going to go to update post, and let's update post 2. Okay, what's this? Looks like we get an error in the syntax. So update posts set title equal to new title. Oh, this has to have quotes around it, like that. All right, so let's try that again. Post updated, and now if we want to check that out, we can just go back to, we'll say get post 2, and now you can see that that title's been updated. All right, now the last thing we're going to do is a delete. So we'll say delete post, and I'll just copy that. and we'll change the route to delete post / ID, and then we're just going to do right here delete from posts where ID equals that ID, and log the result, post deleted, save, and now let's go back to our browser and we'll say / delete post, and let's delete post 2, post deleted. And if we want to check it out, we could go to get post, but if we look at phpMyAdmin, you'll see that it's been deleted. All right, so this should give you kind of a premise for creating CRUD applications, or even you could create a RESTful API pretty easily, going by what we've done here. So that's it, guys. Hopefully that helped you out for the people that have asked me how to integrate MySQL. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I think this is one of the easiest. SQLize does give you a lot more features, but it's also a lot more complicated. But that's it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.